So welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session for our Helix AIOps session that we run monthly, we're going to be focusing on transitioning from TSOM to BHOM, a new era in operations management. We are joined by Brendan Murray, our Principal Solutions Engineer, and David Karthauser, our Principal Consultant, along with my co-host, Yaron. We will start off the formal introduction shortly, but before we start that, just a reminder, we have the Q&A section of Zoom, which you'll find at the bottom. Feel free during the session and the demos to put your questions in there. We will, of course, have time at the end to go to the live questions. So if you do want to speak to us directly, feel free to still put your question in and we'll answer it at the end. Otherwise, during the presentations, please pop them in. We're also joined by Amal, our product manager for BHOM. So if there is any BHOM questions as well, we can answer those. I'm now going to hand over to my co-host, Yaron, just to say a few words before we get started.
Thanks, Sam, and thanks everybody for joining the session today. So in this webinar session, we've talked a lot about the value of AIOps and how AIOps takes you to the next level of monitoring, observability, and AIOps. And what we want to talk about today is how do you transition from the previous generation's monitoring tools, which is TrueSight Operations Management, to BHOM. And for that, like Sam mentioned, we have two of our top experts about how you transition from TrueSight, from the old monitoring world, into AIOps. Now, events are a cornerstone of AIOps, because when you look at AIOps and you look at situations, a lot of the information that feeds into these situations does come from events and AIOps. And with that, I am going to turn this over to Brendan to talk a little bit about all the cool stuff that we have in BHOM. So over to you.
Thanks, Yaron. All right, let's get started. I'm Brendan Murray. I'm a Principal Solution Engineer. I've been with BMC over 20 years. Focusing on monitoring, event management, and AIOps. So my job for the starting part of the webinar really is to talk about all the great things that you get with BMC Helix Operations Management. Why would you want to move from TrueSight if you're on TrueSight Operations Management today? What is the big reason for moving up to BHOM? So just to start off, and I will be doing a demonstration, so I'll go quickly through these slides. I won't read out every last word on the slide, but really BMC Helix Operations Management is about service-centric monitoring. So it is very much focused on delivery of your services rather than focusing on individual bits of technology and treating them all as separate siloed entities. We want to be holistic about the way we monitor, so we're going to do it in a service-centric way. The open integrations is a big benefit of moving to the Helix platform. For those of you who are on TSOM, you know that every integration that you build is kind of there are a few out-of-the-box integrations, but a lot of them have to be custom. There's definitely a fair amount of maintenance work involved in keeping those integrations current and functioning. That all goes away with the Helix platform. You've got the Helix Intelligent Integrations component with about getting close to 40 out-of-the-box integrations with all kinds of third-party data sources. And because BHOM is an observability platform, our whole reason for being is to consume data from top to bottom that tells us what's going on with your services. That integration piece is key. The next piece really is about event management. TrueSight Operations Management was great at that, and we've carried on that tradition. We've just made it easier. So now instead of MRL rules, you have policies that allow you to configure how your events are handled. And even better, you don't even necessarily have to configure policies for a lot of the advanced things like correlation. That's all now done automatically through AI and machine learning. And the big benefit of that is our ability to do root cause analysis. So the correlation is based around cause and effect relationships. So as part of our AI algorithm, we are identifying when we are grouping events together into what we call a situation, we are doing that based on inferred cause and effect relationships. We actually identify what is the root cause, and that becomes the kind of the name of the situation. The situation is just a cluster of related events. And with situations, one of the other benefits you get is that we fingerprint every situation, which is essentially a profile that says that captures, when did it happen, what service was impacted, what were the events like that we got, which CIs in the service model, which components of the service model were impacted. That becomes a profile that we can search so that if we see that scenario happen again, we can say, oh, we've seen this before. How did we fix it then? Let's try that. Let's try that this time. And then the final thing, of course, is if you can fix something through automation and reduce the element of human error, reduce the element of human toil, then that's the way to go. So intelligent automation is another platform-wide service that allows you to basically just to drive any automation solution of your choice based on events coming from the AIOps component. This is just to reinforce the big benefit of the intelligent integration component of the platform. These are the current out-of-the-box integrations with all kinds of third-party data sources. You can see Dynatrace, Eternity, Zabbix, Splunk, all the top sources of data, and of course the cloud platform, so AWS, Azure, and so on. So all of that data is incredibly valuable, but it comes at you thick and fast, and you're probably monitoring it separately today through separate consoles. We consolidate that all in a single place. The big point of the AIOps component of BMC Helix Operations Management is to accelerate the mean value of the AI and the machine learning that comes into play. So the big task is to sift through all of the data that we're getting from all of the different sources, infrastructure, application performance monitoring, log data, and come up with what is actually the root cause of the problem, what is the impact, what other parts of the service are impacted by that cause, and then cluster all of those related events into a situation so that we can operate and we can work on them as a unit, as a single thing, rather than chasing 50 different alerts that are probably related, but we're treating them as separate items in the traditional world, and that is hugely inefficient. So we're grouping them together in BHOM using AIOps. And then the final piece, and this is a big improvement over the way service modeling is done in TrueSight Operations Management, and that is the concept of dynamic service modeling. So we've kind of snipped the cord, if you like, between the service model and the CMDB. We no longer depend on synchronizing with the CMDB. We can still do that, of course, if that makes the most sense in your environment. But with dynamic service modeling, we've opened up the concept of the service model for all kinds of different sources of data, our own BMC Helix discovery, as well as application performance monitoring tools that capture application topology, and even infrastructure monitoring tools. All of these things have elements of the topology, even if it's just your VMware infrastructure, how all of those relationships, between the data centers and the hosts and the VMs and so on. All of that data is valuable as topology for providing service context, and we can now consume it much more easily and much more dynamically. The other big benefit of dynamic service modeling is this new concept that we've created called a service blueprint, which essentially allows you to make service models dynamic. It essentially lays a dynamic filter on top of your topology data, says, yes, I want to include all CIs whose names begin with these characters, or I want all CIs who are related in this way to these other CIs. And so your models will update dynamically as new servers are spun up, new network devices, new applications. As long as they fit the criteria of the blueprint, they will automatically be added to the service model without any human intervention required. So huge improvement over the way service modeling is done, making it much more scalable and practical. I won't spend a huge amount of time going through these slides. You'll be getting access to these slides after the webinar. But this really just gives you sort of a set of something to compare, basically. What you've got in TrueSight Operations Management today, and the equivalent features are also in BHOM. But then on the next couple of slides, we go into all of the things that you get with BHOM that are not in TrueSight Operations Management, many of which I've already touched on, and I won't go through the whole list in order to be efficient with time. And then there are the advanced capabilities. And the advanced capabilities really are about things like service predictions, as well as using generative AI, our Helix GPT generative AI component, to add a much easier way of understanding when you've got a situation, these clusters of events that I've talked about, how can we summarize what that situation actually means in a natural language way, and provide you with recommendations on how to actually fix the problem. And that's all done with our Helix GPT component. So that's it for my slides. The next thing I'm going to do is take you through a demonstration in a fictional company called Apex Fashion, which is designed to sort of give you a representative type of example of how in the modern world you've got a lot of companies going through digital transformation. They're moving, in a lot of cases, from on-premises applications, moving a lot of the workloads into the cloud. And that's exactly what Apex Fashion has done. So we've got our flagship website, which is a retail website where we're selling our various watches on apexwatches.com. But that's supported by all kinds of additional services, some of which are in the cloud. So we've got components, like Redis and RabbitMQ and Docker. So modern IT components hosted in Amazon or Azure or the cloud of your choice. But we've also got a lot of on-premises components still. So we've got our VMware infrastructure, our database, networks, our core infrastructure, again with databases, network components, and so on. And of course, our storage. So we're dependent on both infrastructure in the cloud, services in the cloud, as well as on-premises infrastructure. So the net result of that is we've got a really complex environment to run. And when it breaks, it can be really hard to identify what the actual issue is and how do we fix it. And so that's the challenge we're going to address in the demonstration. All right, I'm going to switch over to my live environment. All right, so we've now got our retail store. So this is apexwatches.com. It's your classic retail website with a shopping cart. I can go into the catalog. I can go and look at the available watches. If I want to get ambitious, I can look at the more expensive watches, and I can add, this one looks nice. I'm going to add it to my cart, and it's actually taken a while to go into the cart. There it went. So I've got a bit of a performance problem, and so and in fact, I've got a ton of users that are encountering this same performance problem. The application is there, but it's slow, and so I want to, as the owner of apexwatches.com, I want to make sure that that problem is solved. So all right, and so what I want to do is I want to figure out why is the Apex Watches application running slow. So I've got my third-party application performance monitoring solution. In this case, we're using the example of Dynatrace. Dynatrace, as you probably know, is not a BMC product. I'm showing you this really to illustrate the idea that we are capable of consuming observability data from whatever source makes sense. So that's where that intelligent integrations component comes into play. So I'm actually monitoring infrastructure in Dynatrace as well as aspects of my application, my retail application. So I can see, traditional infrastructure metrics, host performance, memory utilization, and so on. I'm getting process level data. So that data is all flowing into Helix Operations Management. So we're consuming all of this metric data. Well, we're also consuming the topology data that Dynatrace has identified. So we can go into the Smartscape view in Dynatrace, and I can actually see the application topology. And again, we're consuming this topology in BHOM in order to drive our AI. So if we understand what's connected to what, how the application is built, the relationships between all the application components, we import that into our dynamic service modeling data store, and that becomes an input to our AI and machine learning algorithm. So let's go in and have a look at our service. we'll start off with our service overview. And so this is the overview page that's giving me, and I've got it right now set to the last 24 hours. So I'm looking at total events, total incidents that we've created based automatically based on situations that are occurring with our services. And I can see I've got a number of situations open. Again, these are clusters of related events that all are grouped together in order to reduce noise so that we can treat them as a single thing that we need to troubleshoot as a unit. I'm going to drill down into my apexwatches.com service because it's like several of the other services, it's not showing a health score of 100. Anything less than 100 is not great. 56 is definitely not a great health score. It means Apex Watches is up, but it's not healthy at the moment. So I'm now looking at the detailed view of the Apex Watches service, and I can see all kinds of information. This is kind of an information-dense display. I can see the application timeline. So you can see we've had intermittent problems over the last 3 hours. I could go back even further, look at the last 24 hours. And I can see, all right, so I've had recurring problems. And so something is definitely not entirely stable about Apex Watches. I can also see, looking at these little icons or symbols on the timeline, I can also see where changes were put into effect. So this is actually an indicator that a change was completed or was changed to in progress status at around 8:10. And I can also see that I've got a number of events that have come in shortly after that and some additional events as well. So in most cases in the real world, we know that the IT applications generally don't break spontaneously. Usually somebody changes something and that's what causes. So I've got a good indicator right here that, in fact, the application has changed and that's why we're having issues. I can also see, I can quickly pop up the impacting events to my application. So this is all of the events that are impacting any aspect of the Apex Watches service. And the key takeaway from this is you can see we're looking at events, but I can also flip over to see any incidents that I've created in Helix ITSM. If you're using ServiceNow, these could also be ServiceNow incidents. And I can also look at any changes that are in various statuses for the service. Again, any change for any CI in this service will show up here. I can also see, I can drill down on the events to get more information. For example, this is telling me that I've got a socket receive error in my logs. It's probably a network assist log. And I could actually go into the log analytics and review that log data. I can just cross-launch into the log analytics, which is another component of the Helix platform. It will immediately launch into the log analytics tool and isolate that log event so you can see all of the data that is associated with that log event. I'm also getting data from alerts from all kinds of other sources, including Dynatrace, which we talked about before. And in fact, what I'm getting from Dynatrace is the raw metric data, so the numeric time series data, and I'm actually generating intelligent events based on intelligent thresholds. So in other words, I can baseline this metric and generate alerts when it deviates from its normal behavior. So I can factor in, what is normal for this metric, and I can use that to make sure that I'm not generating alert noise. And we can actually see that data live coming in from Dynatrace. What I really want to do, of course, is fix my service. I want to get to the root cause quickly. And so that's really what we're showing here is the service model, but it's a simplified view of the service model. You can see that each one of these tiles actually has a little number in the upper left-hand corner. That's because we've collapsed all the similar types of CIs into a single object. But if I expand those, like I just did there, and I'll increase our display area, we can see all of the different components of the service model. Some of these are front end hosted in the cloud. Some of these are in the back end. There are infrastructure components all the way down to individual hosts. And so I can get a good view of what is going on with my service. I can see where the root cause is, which is what this red bar indicates. This is the causal node, but I can also see how that impact flows up through other CIs in the service. So each one of these CIs may have its own set of events outstanding for it. I can also go and look at the service hierarchy because, as we saw off the top, Apex Watches depends on a lot of other services within Apex Fashion. And so I can have a look at the service hierarchy to get a sense of those dependencies. So apexwatches.com is the service we're focused on, but we can see that the problem actually, there's some issues with Apex Watches, but we've also got issues at the core infrastructure and core network layer. So this is just a good way to visualize what's going on with the service. But if we want to just straight to the jump to the actual cause of the service issue, we can do that simply by going down to either analyze root cause or analyze situations. Analyze root cause will take you to the root cause for Apex Watches itself, and we can see that we've identified so that our causal CI is having, which is a host, is having high CPU utilization. We can see it's been identified as root cause because that's what that little target symbol indicates. And we can see that we've also created a ticket for this situation, and we've got a couple of automated remediations available. We're not going to launch those quite yet. We're going to do a bit more investigation first. I can also flip over to the Changes tab, and again, I can see what changes are related to this particular service, see which ones are completed, which ones are actually in progress, and also figure out, okay, when did those changes actually start to happen. Let's jump back into situations because situations allows us to look at all of the situations impacting not just my Apex Watches service, but all of these related services. I can see I've got a situation that is flagged a little bit differently. It's called a primary situation, and you can think of it as just a cluster of clusters. It's a situation that's a group of other situations that are all related, all impacting my service. So let's focus on that group of situations. And I can see, again, one of them has been identified as the root cause. That's my core infrastructure component. And so I can drill down on that. And if I click on that, I will see a summary of the situation in natural language. So this is coming from the Helix GPT component. This is actually coming from generative AI, in other words. So we're taking all of the events that are in this situation, we're identifying the root cause, and then we're summarizing the overall meaning of the situation so that you don't have to wade through. Some situations could contain, for example, as many as 100, 200 events. You really need to be able to summarize, okay, what do they all mean as a unit? So that's what this summary is designed to tell you. We're also using generative AI to suggest troubleshooting steps and remediation steps. So I can click on show remediation steps, and immediately I will get a set of manual steps. Some of these will be triage, some of these will be actual remediations. So response time improvement and so on. I can click through and look at the other aspects of the remediation process. Also, if some of these steps, it looks like a lot of these steps could be automated through scripting. And so when that is the case, we will actually pop up a code wizard, which will generate a script, or at least the outline of a script for you. You may need to tweak it a little bit for your environment, but we'll do the bulk of the work for you, and then you can go ahead and customize it and run it. So if you need a script for, in this case, to optimize DB database resources, we will generate that. In this case, we're doing it in Ansible, so that Ansible being, if Ansible is your automation tool of choice, then we can drive an Ansible playbook from this script. If you're more of a Python shop or you're just using Shell, we can also generate those scripts automatically for you as well. The other thing you can do with Ask Helix is Ask Helix GPT, which is our interactive chatbot. Today, we give you a set of standard prompts, and as it evolves, we'll probably make it a little bit more open so that you can do more custom prompts, your own prompts. Right now, I can look at what is the impact of the issue, which team do I need to involve, are there any open change windows? I can click on, for example, open change windows. So for this particular part of the service, there are no actual change requests. The change requests were associated with a different service in my service hierarchy. I can also look at which team can solve the issue, right? In some cases, you're going to get an answer that says, sorry, I don't have that information. And so that's another capability that is based on generative AI. So the next thing we really want to do is we want to resolve this issue. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back out to our situations. I'm going to focus on a different situation because I want to isolate a particular automated response that I have set up already, ready to go for you. And so what I can see here is I have created an incident for this network outage issue. I've got a set of similar situations that I've identified. Remember, if you remember what I said earlier, we fingerprint every situation. So every cluster of events, every failure scenario, if you like, has its own unique properties. What CIs were involved? What alerts did we get? What were the relationships between those CIs? So we fingerprint those, and then we can tell you, oh yes, we've seen this happen multiple times this week. In fact, it's been happening a lot. Here's the current situation, but we've actually had it, we've had it happen many times before. And I can also see the details of the situation by just flipping over to my event view. And so these are the actual events that I've grouped together into my event cluster. I can see I've identified a network outage event as the root cause. Again, this little target symbol tells me that. I can also see that I have created tickets for all of these events. The nice thing about the concept of a situation, though, is that we are not creating, and this is configurable. The way I have the environment set up right now is I've got it set up. I know that I want to know about the situation. I don't necessarily want to create tickets, especially for things like just major level alerts. I don't want to create a bunch of tickets that are going to just generate a lot of churn in the service desk, everybody, having to troubleshoot these things as independent items. So if I hover over these ticket numbers, they're actually all the same ticket number. That's because I've rolled up all of these events into my situation. I've created one incident for the situation itself. And then all of the other events are just added as annotations to the incident. And what I also have handedly is I have a couple of automated responses that I can use to try and restore service. Right now, I'm not going to do that quite yet because I want to be a bit more confident that those are the right automations. So what I can do is I can go back to my similar situations. I can say, show me more. I want to see those situations that have happened in the past. And so I can see that it happened 3 hours ago, 12 hours ago, and so on. I can go ahead and say, all right, I want to look at the details of this previous occurrence of the situation. And I'm going to look at go back to the events view. And again, I can see the same root cause event has been identified. And also I've got a couple of automations available, the same two automations. But the big thing here is I'm looking at historical data, and I can see, all right, I ran the network, or somebody ran the network configuration reset the last time, and it was successful. And I could actually pop into our automation, intelligent automation, and view that history. But instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, okay, I think that's what I want to do. It worked the last time. It seems to make sense to do it for the current situation. And so I'm going to go back down to the current situation, which is down here. And I'm going to say, let's go ahead and run that same automated response. I'll go run this automation, ask for confirmation. And so what we're doing now, and this automation could be fully automatic. I'm doing it manually so that I have control over it for demonstration purposes. But if you are confident that every time this particular issue happens, you know what the resolution is and you want to just run that automation automatically, then you would set this automation to fully automatic, and it would just happen every time it was needed. All right, so I can click on refresh, and again, I get the successful message. So it looks like our automated response was successful. I can actually view more details about that by popping into our intelligent automation. So I've just cross-launched into another application on the Helix platform, which is telling me how my automated responses are doing. And so intelligent automation, you can think of it as an automation broker. So we're not actually doing the automation. We are triggering the automation in the automation tool of your choice. So it could be Ansible, Jenkins, Chef, Puppet, our own TrueSight Automation, TrueSight Orchestration, or any tool really that has a REST API. We can be the triggering mechanism, and then we can collect the data on how that automation actually worked. And we actually make it available in a dashboard. And so this is our automation value dashboard. So what our intelligent automation allows you to do is when you define an automated response, you can also associate time savings and cost avoidance numbers with that automation. And so we will automatically calculate how much time you saved, how much money you saved by automating your responses to application and infrastructure problems. And so we can see we've run this network configuration reset 3 times in the last 30 days. And this is how much money we've saved by automating our responses. And that takes me to the end of my section. I'll hand it over to you, Dave.
Thanks, Brendan. Okay, so let me share my screen here. And just in way of introduction, I'm Dave Cardhauser. I'm with BMC Professional Services. Now, can you see my screen or?
Yes, it's all good.
Okay, very good. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about, as Brendan laid out, there's a lot of wealth of wonderful benefits and capabilities that you can get with AIOps. But like we alluded to in the beginning, it all runs on the foundation of getting your event and your event sources into there. And if you're currently a TSOM or a BPPM customer, you've got a lot of investment in what you've developed to date. So what I'm going to talk about are the steps that we go through to migrate from TSOM to BHOM. Now, it's not a one-to-one correspondence. It's we didn't take the product and just move it to the cloud. So we have tools and processes to assist us in this migration. Now, if you look at this overview screen here, it lists a bunch of activities. And if you're doing the migration, you may need to, use some or all of these. So what I'm going to focus on are the major ones that would be common to, all customers. Now, there's, the health check migration utility, which you can run. And there's a, obviously, if you're using patrol agents, how do I migrate my patrol agents? They're configured currently, using the infrastructure policies, and we need to migrate those to monitoring policies. And then our event rules and policies, which, your MRL, our event policies, how do I migrate those? And then we'll talk about other considerations. Now, when you run the health check migration utility, it basically, this is just a sample of one of the output screens. This gives you important information identifying all the various components, in my infrastructure. It's just a tool to let me know what all is out there and I need to be aware of for migration. Now, the next step, well, actually, this is probably not the next step, but a big consideration is the patrol agent migration. You currently have patrol agents that are connected to TSOM for configuration, also as a destination for sending events and metrics. So, there's two approaches to doing this. One is, you can do an upgrade in place, and there's a transition period. So the best way to do this is to upgrade your patrol agent to the latest version that's compatible with both TSOM and BHOM. You can also install a second agent, on your servers, with the latest version of the patrol agent. So it's just, whatever your strategy is there. But assuming that we do an upgrade in place of the existing patrol agent to the latest compatible version, then there are some p-config, variables that need to be set to point to, the BHOM and, supply it with an API key. And because this is in the cloud, and some of your, some or maybe even all of your hosts do not have connection to the internet, you can run these through a forward proxy, and that's optionally configurable. Let's see. So, typically, and this can be done manually if you have a handful of patrol agents, but typically, you would use whatever automation tool you have to go do the agent upgrades and update the variables. Now, one thing to keep in mind is once I update these variables and restart the host, they disconnect from TSOM and connect to BHOM. So it's one or the other. That's why some customers elect to go with new agents. Okay, in TSOM, we configure the patrol, and this again relates only to patrol agents. Is we configure the patrol agents in TSOM with infrastructure management policies. Now, those are compatible with and migratable to the monitoring policies within BHOM. We have basically a command line tool that will allow you to export your current policies in JSON format, and then through REST APIs, push them over to BHOM. A couple of things, considerations here is if a lot of the policies contain encrypted passwords. We can move encrypted passwords, as long as we have the encryption key from both environments. I mean, that's pretty easy to get. So that's not an issue. Or you can, if you don't have the encryption keys, it'll just put in a dummy password that you would have to update manually. Now, we do in TSOM, it was possible to create both agent and server side thresholds. In BHOM, we no longer directly support the agent side thresholds, so the migration utility converts the agent side thresholds into server side thresholds. So this same tool will also allow you to migrate all these various things, the infrastructure policies, the alarm policies, which are the thresholds. Also we can migrate an event policy, but I'll come back to that later. But also blackout groups. Okay. And you can also use this tool, to migrate between environments or tenants. In other words, you'll have in BHOM, you'll have separate environments like a dev environment and a production environment. So you can initially move this to dev and do whatever tweaks you want to do, and this will move it to to prod for you as well. Now, the event rules migration is probably the most difficult and complex part of the migration. In BHOM, I mean, at TSOM, we used, we had the event cells, and which used MRL, MRL rules are the event policies, which are really MRL based anyway. So that no longer exists. So we have a tool to allow us to take your existing knowledge bases, from TSOM and analyze them, and it can do things like it can migrate your custom event classes. It can migrate some event rules and give you some guidance on how to do the rest of them manually. And it will also migrate most, if not all, of your event policies. Now, again, some of this is a manual effort because it's not a one-to-one correspondence on everything. Now, this is a screenshot from the event policy migration tool, and it highlights areas where you've got issues and all that. And it's also got the ability to simulate a migration or to actually do the migration to BHOM for you. Now, other things to take into consideration, event integrations. Now, as Brendan spoke of, earlier in this presentation, we talked about the intelligent integrations. That is that is our preferred method for at least for all of the supported 40 or so integrations, things like Dynatrace, Microsoft SCOM, Datadog. I mean, there's quite a few there. Now, in your particular situation, you may have integrated events through calling scripts, which call the MSAN command line tool. Now, you can still do that at least in a similar fashion. We have REST API calls that can be made. And we've also have a replacement script of sorts that supports the same format as MSIN, but under the covers, it's actually doing REST API calls. So you can do event integrations just like you're doing today. By having them triggered by calling scripts from your third-party source. Now, application and synthetic monitoring track. So if you've done the application visibility stuff, there is not really an equivalent, at least not at the time being, in BHOM. However, we can, again, through REST APIs, we can forward the eventing from that. You would have to leave that portion of TSOM on premise, but we can forward events from there. Same thing with SNMP traps. We do not have an SNMP trap listener in BHOM in the cloud, and which wouldn't really make a lot of sense. You want your SNMP trap listener to be as close to the source as possible anyway. So our current solution for that is to leave an event cell in place on premise with the SNMP event adapter in place, and we would install what we call the BHOM event gateway that would actually forward events from the cells to BHOM. Now, the last item I've got, which is kind of a one-off, and I have this situation, is we had a TSOM component called called ITDA, which was for log file ingestion. We have a similar capability in BHOM. It's called, log file analysis, and Brendan demonstrated that one in his demonstration. But it works in a similar fashion. You have an on-premise agent that will read log files and then send them to the cloud. So that's really all I have in my presentation. So
thank you, David.
Yeah,
thank you, and Brendan. So just an additional resources slide. This comes from our documentation team. We won't expect you to write down all of these URLs. We will be sharing out the slides, and we will also be sharing out the recording. So hopefully some helpful documentation and videos for you to watch at a later date. We've also got our past recordings. If you can move to the next slide, David, for me. So all of the sessions that we've done, it doesn't matter if you haven't joined every session. This is session 8. All of them are very individual, but they're co-hosted by myself and Yaron. So if you haven't managed to make any of the other sessions, they're listed here. And again, because we'll be sharing these out, any of you that have gone onto the webinar page will find these. All of the sessions that we run for the AIOps series and most of the webinars are all put out on LinkedIn as well. So there's various different ways for us to connect. We also try to find the most recent or the best education courses if you're interested in learning more. And the team that come and join Yaron and I, if you want to talk with anyone at any point, feel free to fill in the survey. I can connect you up to the BMC professionals as well. David, one more slide. I think I've got 1 or 2 that's just more references. So I've put the YouTube channels as well. So everything we record today will actually go onto our YouTube channel, but you will get an email that will say thank you with all of the stuff that we're going to share. So I'll make it even easier for you. But I would say do take some time to go to the documentations YouTube channel, which is the one listed here. And then there's also the channel under TSOM BHOM for this recording that you'll find as well. One more slide. Hopefully it's going to be the thank you as well after. So we've got a next session that's coming up for Yaron and I. We're going to be focusing, and Brendan will be joining us on service assurance and optimization. So if you haven't already registered, please do. And again, if you have any registration issues, I know I've had a few people message me today. If there's any concerns, automatically email me. I do have a look, and I will send you the direct link to Zoom as well. So hopefully that should be all our slides. If you want to skip through the last ones, because I'll be sharing these slides and take us to the Q&A slide. I see we've got a couple of questions as well, guys. So I'm going to go straight to the Q&A, if that's okay. And while I ask the first question, I will then start unmuting you all. You are unmuted at the moment. Our first question to the team is from Amit. In TSOM, we have multiple environments set up, dev, test, and prod. So in the case of BHOM, how many environments is it going to need to set up? I wonder if one of our team can answer that. And Amit, I will find you to unmute you as well.
Yeah, I can take that one, Samantha. I think the standard, I think for BHOM, I think the standard is we provide you with 2 environments. If you think you need more, then you have that option contractually to have more than just a production in a dev environment. But I think the standard, and this is all available in our Helix subscriber information, which is documentation available on our documentation site. But I believe the standard provisioning is 2 environments, 1 production, 1 development.
Yeah, and this is Dave. Just in my experience, I get more involved with the customers that are actually doing this. I see some with 2 environments, a dev and prod, and I see quite a few with 3 environments, dev, QA, and prod.
Amit, can you hear us? I can see you've come off mute.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. So, am I audible, right?
Yes, you are.
Yep.
Yeah. So, first of all, thanks for the answer. I also do have one more question. Let's say, as of now, we are using BHOM such as 24.x version, right? And in future, let's say some another version gets released. Okay. So in this case, how the migration will happen? that migration will be automatically happen, or we are supposed to migrate manually, or I mean, what would be the end of life, right, with of the BHOM, right, which we are currently using it.
That one might be for your own, yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Amit. So, are you using SaaS or on-premises?
On-prem setup.
Okay. So for on-premises setup, you will have the option to download a new version. So once, let's say you've deployed the current version, which is 24.4, new version comes out, you get a notification, you can download the new version and upgrade your environment.
Okay, so that is the on-prem solution. I mean, this approach will work on-prem, right?
Yes, and in SaaS, what happens is that the upgrades are up to BMC. So you will get as a SaaS customer, you get a notification with the exact date when we're going to be upgrading your non-prod environments. And then you get another notification that says when we're going to be upgrading your prod environments as well. So we start off with upgrading the non-production environments, so dev and test and all those. And then, a little bit after that, we also upgrade the production environment.
Okay, fine, got it. Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
thanks, Amit.
Thank you. Okay, so a couple more questions that we've got. This one's a long one. I don't know who's actually asked it because it's under anonymous. So if this is the person, when you hear me reading it, feel free to come off mute. The question was, I could see the documentation talks about integration of BMC Helix Operation Management with ServiceNow with respect to get the topology data from ServiceNow. I wish to check what options we have to integrate BHOM event to ServiceNow event management, as we had integration earlier to consume ServiceNow push connector URL in the BMC TrueSight using endpoint. I don't know if one of our tech guys can take that question. Just review it. And whoever's asked that question, if you're still on, feel free to come off mute.
I can take a stab at it, Smith. The option for intelligent integrations is primarily for us bringing external data into the Helix platform. So the question appears to be about an outbound integration, about sending events from BMC Helix Operations Management into the ServiceNow event management. And that would be done through our integration platform as a service, or iPaaS component, which is a SaaS-based offering that allows us to basically provides a number of out-of-the-box connectors that allow us to send data to non-BMC solutions. So for data going from BMC to ServiceNow, we would use that Helix iPaaS component and use the ServiceNow event and connect basically BHOM events to the ServiceNow event management application.
Hi, David. This is Sharon. I have posted this question. So this question is in regard if the customer who is using the BMC TrueSight on-prem solution and they are going to migrate it to the BHOM and they are using an earlier mechanism for doing an integration with the service now. What you are saying it, I could understand it that is a moreover it's a iPaaS based offering for the SaaS solution. I believe so. That's what you have stated it. For on-prem, what option then we have?
For on-prem, if you're deploying Helix Operations Management on-prem, there is an on-prem connector for iPaaS. So if we need to connect an on-prem BHOM to ServiceNow in the cloud, then iPaaS can actually do that.
Okay. And okay.
Can I ask one question here? Are you using ServiceNow purely for incident management?
No. I think you see we are doing a BHOM to ServiceNow ITOM. I would say that event management integration. Okay, I mean the integration is already in place, but we are going to migrate to the BHOM, and the idea is to push that BHOM event into the ServiceNow event management.
All right, got it. So Yeah. So this use case is going to be supported from the 25.1 onward as well, because we are coming with an approach where you can, forward the BHOM event to any external source. But what Brendan also said that currently, there is an iPass mechanism exist, which you can still use it. But
Okay.
out of the box capability is going to be also available from 25.1 through the intelligent automation connector.
Okay, great. Glad to hear this answer. Okay. Thank you so much, Anmol, for answering this.
No
Thank you for your
worries.
question, Sharad, and we'll make sure this is all documented in the Q&A because I'm sure others may have similar questions. Okay, conscious of the time, we've only got a minute or so left, so I'll just try to get through our final questions that we've got in the Q&A, and thank you for those that have put them in. So Gaurav, your question was, in case of BHOM version upgrade, how is patrol agent upgrade can be handled in this case?
This is Dave. I'll take this one. Whenever the BHOM version is upgraded, if there are upgrades to the patrol agents, it's actually placed into the repository for you automatically. Then you can then create a deployable package and apply that to one or all agents, through the GUI, BHOM GUI. You can also download it and do the upgrades through your whatever automation tool of your choice.
And hi, Gaurav here. Thanks for answering this. But what if my upgrade through my BHOM console gets failed while doing this upgrade, agent upgrade? How exactly I'll come to know for what all servers it will get failed? Uh, will I able to extract some kind of a list out of BHOM screen that these are the servers where the patrol agent got failed with so and so reason, and then I can probably fix the root cause, or I can deploy it manually then.
Yeah, there is there is in the agent list screen. It shows you if it had any failed deployments, and then you could go and look at the deployment log on that server to see what the problem was. All it will tell you in the GUI is that it is succeeded or failed.
So it will be server basis, or there will be a list of the failure servers where this upgrade gets failed.
Well, I mean, it's going to do it, on a agent by agent basis. Each agent, you can have more than one agent per server, but it'll just show you that it failed, for that particular agent.
And in case of failure, will I still get to? I mean, will I still be able to monitor that specific server, or it will get corrupted or something like that? I mean, what you have experienced in case of failure?
I've not experienced any failure. I've seen situations where I had to go back in and restart the agent if the upgrade failed, but generally it doesn't commit any changes unless they were successful. I've never seen any major issues other than the fact that you have to restart the agent.
Okay. And how frequent basically we need to upgrade the agent? Will every version upgrade? Because let's say if we are talking about BHOM on SaaS, uh, probably you will be deploying some patch or upgrading the version from 24.x to 20. I mean within 24. Let's say 01 to 02. If we are doing that, so do I need to upgrade the patches as well as agents as well in that case?
Only if it, you'll be notified if that's required, but also you need to look at, what problems it addresses and what new features, it addresses. So if you're not experiencing a problem or not looking to take advantage of a new feature, there's no need to upgrade the patrol agent.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Gaurav. I think we've got time for the last one, and then we will close the call. So I can see, Amit, you had a question referring to Amit's and asking about sharing the official statement about the license options for Dev and Prod. I think, Brendan, you were just about to reply to that, so I'll let you speak on that note. And I think Amit's written a further thing, the official statement that mentions how many replicas of licenses customers should be entitled to. So I don't know if you want to answer that.
Yeah, I've just posted, as far as the question about the official statement, I've just posted a link to our Helix subscriber documentation for Ahmed's question. So, and it lists that, yes, in fact, you get the standard license entitles you to a development and a production environment. So
wonderful, and he's just said it's answered his question. Thank you.
Right.
And just for everybody else on the call, we'll also share that link in the summary that you will get from this session today, because the subscriber page actually has a lot of useful information. So please look out for that link.
Great, and I just want to take that last question because Shiv, you've begged me to ask your question for you. So before everyone runs away, Shiv, if you want to come off of mute as well. His question was BHOM to CMDB integration is there, since CMDB has manual service, will it be created with fine tune? If BHOM is integrated with Discovery for service modeling, then this will have a lot of things. So I'll leave that for someone to answer that question. And Shiv, feel free to come off mute.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, this is Dave. I think this may answer your question. There is one of the intelligent integration is with the BMC CMDB, and so what it will do is it will take whatever whatever topology you've created in CMDB and migrate it basically back to Discovery. Does that answer your question?
No, actually, Discovery has its own intelligence to create modeling based on the connections, but it will have a lot of things. Say, from the top of it's a load balancer and then servers and everything. Then server has its own instance. But I believe the CMDB has manual created services which will be fine-tuned with exact relationship and impact. So if like currently we are using the on-prem and which will have fine-tuned service modeling in CMDB. Okay.
Right.
So yeah. So do we have integration with the CMDB, or as far as I am gone through with your documentation, I think Discovery is the source, if I'm not wrong, not sure.
That's true, but what I was saying is we can take the topology from the CMDB and integrate it with the Discovery topology. All the relationships that you're talking about will be merged back onto onto the Discovery topology. Brendan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what Dave said is essentially the situation. So the Discovery data goes into the DSM repository, which is immediately accessible to BHOM and AIOps. So we don't need the CMDB data. However, if you have models in your CMDB that you want to make available to BHOM, then you can sync the CMDB with the DSM repository. And so that data will then show up because our Discovery solution is built into the platform. You will see that data in both Discovery and in BHOM and the service monitoring console. So yes, you can sync the CMDB models that you've created. They will be reconciled with any data that already exists and that you've collected from Discovery.
Okay, so at the time both integration will work, or only one will be we will have a two repository in BHOM?
No, you'll have a single repository, which is the DSM repository. All Discovery data automatically goes there. And then if you want to incorporate the CMDB, then you can use the integration that Dave described, the intelligent integration, to sync your CMDB with the DSM repository, and the two data sources will be reconciled. So you're moving the data from the CMDB into the DSM repository. It will be reconciled with the existing discovery data.
Okay.
Merged in other words. So
Okay.
yeah.